So this is a video that I've been pushing in front of me for more than a week now. And it's really a video that I don't particularly want to make, but here we are. I watched the Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary last week, multiple times even. And for the entire time, I've been thinking about like, okay, what am I going to talk about? And I've wrote many different scripts. I had even a viewing session with my good friend Mathieu, which, Mathieu, thank you, brother, for helping me out. I don't think any of that footage will find it in here, but I do still appreciate the help. And after many drafts, many different angles and scripts, I just think like, okay, well, I just need to sit in front of my camera and rant a little bit. Because there's a lot of things that could be said about the Manosphere documentary. And I'm sure a lot of people have said those things already. I'm thinking about the hypocrisy that a lot of these men have, how toxic their behavior is, how problematic their attitude towards women is, and how problematic their supposed guidance is towards men. And all of that is definitely true, and I might still get into that a little bit. But what I really, at the end of the day, want to discuss is that I understand these men. And I particularly understand the men who follow these leaders, these red pill guys, these manosphere guys. When I look back at my youth, or especially my mid-20s, I was already on a journey of trying to get better with women. I've talked about this a little bit before. In my mid-20s, I got single. I was like, I suck with women. I want women in my life. So I need to do something about this. And throughout the years that followed that, I got, let's say, sufficient with women. I had women in my life. I had friends with benefits, all that kind of stuff. And eventually I found myself being back home. I found a new job. It was a temporary thing while we were rebuilding the house that my brother and I just bought. So I found myself living in my mother's house again. And I had a temporary job. So I was very isolated. I was not around my usual city with my usual friends. I was isolated. And that was the same time, and I think I was about maybe 27, 28 at the time, where I started watching a lot of like content, YouTube videos where they laughed at feminism. It was like the heyday of Gamergate, of the social justice warriors, of the feminazis, of the Karens having completely erratic breakdowns in public. These men all hiding behind these cartoon animal characters, basically making videos ridiculing these people. And I'm not gonna lie, like I found it entertaining, and I just thought like, oh, it's all in good fun. I still love women. I am still doing my thing, and after months of consuming that kind of content, and more of it, and different Sargon of Akkad and Thunderfoot and all these like semi-skeptical scientific based people who would then also get into more gender dynamics, all these kind of things. There was a certain moment where I was watching a video, and I don't know what it was about, but at a specific moment I caught myself having this visceral reaction of, yeah, fuck women. And I was so startled and taken aback because, I mean, my whole life is about loving women. I deeply love women. I want to be around them as much as I can be. And suddenly, still, I developed some sort of like innate hatred that came up, like just this visceral reaction. And I was so startled by that that I realized like, oh, I've been accidentally poisoning my mind to be anti-women. And the only conclusion that I could take was I should never watch this content again. And obviously, with the work that I do, I work with men to help them improve their intimate life and their relationship life. I also work as an intimate massage therapist with women. So women come to me who have been wounded, mostly by men, to restore a little bit of the faith in masculinity and to restore some of the connection to themselves. So I have been in this world of men's development, and I've been assisting in trying to soften of finding a better balance between male and female dynamics. So obviously I am very aware of the rise of the red pill community and some of the beliefs that they have. I'm not going to say I'm an expert at it, because again, I try to avoid this stuff as much as I can, but it is inevitable if you do this kind of work that you are confronted with these ideas. I have clients, young men in particular, who come to me who have been radicalized in their thoughts with all these like poisonous anti female sentiments, that then realize like, okay, fuck, my relationship lives are devastated because of that very mindset, that then come to me for like rehabilitation. And it really feels sometimes like rehabilitation, like I have to like undermine these people's foundations that they built in hatred towards women. And it's a lot of work. It's not fun work, but it is part of the job, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. Now, I said that I understand these men, not just because of the example that I gave, but because I'm also a product of the times that we live in. And what I mean by that is I am also a product of absent masculinity. And I do agree with the red pill guys that masculinity has been in some form or another absent for most of us. And if you were a man that grew up in a non-functional household with not the traditional parent structure, you kind of know this is true. And it has left an impact on all of us. And it has left a deep wound in all of us. And my conclusion as a man has always been, I can blame others for the problems that I'm in. Sure, that's the easy route. Blaming women for all our problems, blaming higher ups, blaming society for all our problems, which there might be valid points to be made there. But at the end of the day, I always had this attitude of like, okay, if I don't like the world that I'm in, it is my job to create a life for myself that fits what I want it to be about. And these red pill guys are constantly talking about the matrix and taking the red pill and all that kind of stuff. And then when I look at what they actually do, these are the most in the matrix people that I know of, that I see. All of what they do is trying to grind their way to the top so they can shake hands with the very people running the place. I mean, you can see it in the documentary. I might add in some clips. I don't know how much effort I want to do for this video from an editing perspective. So these guys who are claiming to fight the system are doing exactly what the system demands of them. Be incredibly cutthroat towards other people, only value status and wealth, don't care what anyone has to say, which, fair enough, we should probably sometimes do a little bit less, a lot of us. But it's not just don't care what anybody has to say, dismiss everything that everybody else has to say. And that is just a completely unhealthy attitude to have towards life. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We should all be supporting each other, and we should all try. I mean, this is my fucking hippie ideology, whatever. Like, I don't care. We should all be trying to better ourselves so we can also better the world for the people around us. That is what I believe, at least. Now, the red pillars have found their boogeyman, their demon in feminism and women, which is ironic because I would say that their core tenet is true. Masculinity has taken a wrong path somewhere along the way. And they blame that on women and on women rising up. But that is just because these men they cannot think one step beyond surface level things. Sure, women have risen and taken some claim that, in my opinion, was way overdue. But women are not destroying masculinity, men are destroying masculinity. And men are destroying masculinity by one very specific thing, and that is by taking away the initiations that throughout human history, and still to this day in some cultures, people have been doing specifically to raise boys into manhood. And we don't have that anymore. And we are all worse off of it as men. I remember when I was 30, I came across one of the companies that I was following um, had a new product where they did like an initiation rite for the Western men, specifically for this very purpose. That a lot of us don't really feel like men, mature men, even in our 30s, even beyond that. Like I have men in my men's circles and my groups who are 50s who don't even feel like true men yet. And that is because this initiation is so lacking in our modern culture. And because we don't have that, as men, we are constantly walking around with a longing to be respected and to be accepted as men and in our masculinity and in our manhood. And to give them credit, the Manosphere does at least a version of this. The Manosphere says men should be men, and they are selling that as their product. Well, they're not even selling that as their product, and this is one of the things that frustrates me deeply about this community. They're not selling how boys should turn into men. They're selling boys financial advice, scams, all these kind of things that has nothing to do with developing yourself as a human being, as a man. Maybe their advice is good to have more status in your life and more wealth in your life. But as you can clearly see with a lot of these men as well, does that buy you happiness? I mean, I think we all know that the truth of that is no. So they are actually using the longing for initiation as something that they can monetize. If they would at least deliver on their promise, then I would not have anything to say. But that does not seem to be happening. And at the same time, they're, in my opinion, not even selling healthy masculinity, mature masculinity. They are selling the fantasy of what a teenage boy thinks masculinity is about. And you see this in the entire documentary with every single man. What do they value? They value being controversial and edgy. They value being rebellious and anti the system, even though they're as deep as you could possibly be in the system. They value bragging about how much women that they have, how big the number on their bank account is. They are incredibly self-centered with this fuck you, I don't care attitude that just pushes people away and instills the young boys and men who follow them with an ideology that is actively, in my opinion, one of the reasons that we're in the mess that we're in the first place. because it's all been so individualized instead of the community rituals that held us together in the first place. When I list the traits that I've just listed, in my opinion, that is the behavior of teenagers. That is the behavior of immature boys. Rebelliousness, edginess, boasting and bragging about what they have in the hope that at least their peers would respect them. And this is really what the sad part of all this manosphere thing is about. These men are all so deeply insecure in their own masculinity that they're desperately trying to get it validated from everyone they can get it from. And they try to get that by diminishing the experience of women and dismissing them and judging them. And they try to get that by being like, oh, like, see how cool I am. See how buff I am. And all the flexing and all the sharp suits. And I don't have anything against sharp suits and people who are trained. I'm just saying that all of that is a product of wanting to get validated by other men. And that is exactly the thing that these initiations were supposed to do. They were supposed to give boys mental and physical challenges to go through, so they could then return to the tribe and be accepted by other men as mature boys from that point onwards. But we've never had that, and now we are dealing with the consequences of that. A lot of immature boys acting like they're men by trying to control others and by devaluing others. And I just cannot abide with that. It is so devastating. Because and now I'm talking specifically to the young men who follow these ideologies. Again, I understand it's so easy to slip into it with the hate and the jokes and just the edginess of it all. I understand it. Like I said before, I went down that road for a very short period as well. But you have to think about what the consequences of these kind of thinking is. If you think a man has no inherent value, maybe society has made it that way, and I don't want to live in a world where it's the case, so that's why I'm fighting against this notion in a different way, by saying, yes, you do have value. Of course, you have inherent value as a human being. We are all here, and this is the version of reality that I choose to believe. We have all been put on this planet to accomplish something, to help the world and humanity in some way. So, in essence, you are meant to contribute. And that is what men want to do. By default, we want to contribute, we want to protect, we want to provide. That is contribution. We want to get respect and acceptance from others because of the contributions that we do. And now these guys are perpetuating an ideology where it's all about you, your wealth, your status, your follower count. And if everybody does then, like, what are we left with then? Like, what are we left with? Who is going to help you out when you are struggling in your life? When you have some sort of bad luck, which is inevitable. When your bank accounts suddenly get drained. When you get scammed out of your money. When somebody drives against your fucking Lambo. Who are you going to turn to if your whole life revolves around me? Me. It is so selfish and immature. It's incredible. Another thing, like, you might still think that this jokey, dismissive attitude towards women is funny, or they deserve it in some way. But I would say that most men who are following these guys, these leaders of the manosphere, still want relationships, right? They still want to be with a woman. They still want to have a family. They still are building themselves up in an attempt to provide for that. And that is beautiful. But if you are constantly being bombarded with messages about how toxic women are, what type of relationship do you think you will have with them? It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to bring a lot of satisfaction. And this is the one thing that I just cannot wrap my head around. These men are all so wounded, so incredibly wounded, and they're just projecting their wounds on the rest of us with a ferocity that is so devastating for the rest of us. And by doing that, they are instilling generations of young men with that inherent hatred towards others that I found myself suddenly experiencing myself as well. And then these men end up years down the road in relationships with women that do not want to be touched by their own husband anymore. And that is the consequence of believing in this shit. There is no fulfillment and happiness and love and connection and care and support and respect at the end of the road of what these men are trying to sell you. There is not. And I know this to be true because, again, the men who followed this path then suddenly come to people like me because they realize, like, oh fuck, I'm unable to make long lasting, heart-warming connections, especially with women. And to be fair, like, why would women want to hang out with a man like this? The only reason why these men have women in their lives is because they're making money out of them. These women are there for their money. And you might say then, like, well, that's what all women do. No, that is the deal that these women have with these men. If you only value status and wealth, the only people you will have in your life are people who also only value status and wealth. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where your beliefs that women are only after money are actually validated and they are actually true, because face it, that is the only thing you're bringing to the table. You don't have emotional stability because you repress it all. Depression is not a thing, remember? You cannot provide presence and clarity and direction to a woman. You don't understand women at all. You don't know what they need from you. Sure, you might be able to give them money, but women can take care of that themselves nowadays. That's not what women are after. Women are looking for a mature man that can give them direction, that can give them adventure in their lives, that respects them, that provides them with security, not just security from the outside world, but emotional security, groundedness, care, tenderness, love, connection. But because these ideologies all stay away from that, because they're so afraid of vulnerability that they have to push everybody away. And so they have to keep up these facades of confidence, which breaks as soon as somebody challenges it, as you could clearly also see in the documentary when Louis did it. I just think it's a sad state of affairs. And it's really something that we, in my opinion, as the community of men, have to be fighting against. And not by saying that people who ascribe to these ideas are inherently toxic. Sure, the leaders of these movements have a lot of problematic behavior, and a lot of behavior that I would also call toxic. Shouting at women, just dismissing somebody just because he does not have the physique that you deem valuable. I will never truly understand how these men think that with everything that they believe and say about women, that they will ever be in genuinely healthy relationships. And I'm not saying that as a blanket statement. The Justin Welsh guy, or whatever his name is, he seems to be in a partnership where there is mutual agreement of what it is about. And if that works for them, hell yeah. And the true problem with the fact that they're also status driven and that their value has to be earned is that it creates a fucking lonely world. Because you have to be constantly on edge, and everything suddenly becomes a threat to your very existence. Another wealthier man is suddenly a threat to your partnership. Losing your business or failing at something suddenly becomes a threat for your entire life and your social life and your relationship. And you can also see this so clearly in the documentary, how nervous these men constantly are. They are constantly suspicious of the outside world. They are constantly on edge. And if that is the life that you want to live, fuck me, man. Like, rather you than me. True masculinity, in my perspective, is about peace. Is about being at peace with yourself and creating a world where you can be at peace with your surroundings. And in my opinion, the way you do that is by providing and contributing to the world around you so more people can find that peace. The best relationships that you will ever have with a woman is the relationship where you both can provide each other peace. It's not the only thing you will provide for each other. There will be joy, happiness, adventure, excitedness, spiciness, all that kind of stuff as well. But at the end of the day, are we not all just looking for a little bit of peace in ourselves? And this is maybe for me the most devastating element of the Manosphere, is that the way they want the world to look is one where inherently there is no peace. There is only competition. There is only conflict. And if we broaden the scope a little bit, in my opinion, that competition, that idea that everything is a battle with only winners and losers, is exactly why the world is the mess that it is right now. And these men should not be proud about this. They should be deeply ashamed. There's many more things that I can say about this, but this is already a way longer video than I intended it to be. And I could go into the details of all the problematic things that these men do, but that's not really the point. My main point is that we are all the product of generations of men that were not allowed to go through normal masculinity rights. And because we didn't have that, we are now ruled by insecure boys posturing as men. And we really need to bring back these rituals. I've gone through them myself. I facilitated some of them. And you can really see what that does to a man's spirit and to his heart. And it's a beautiful thing. And if you were watching this and this, for whatever reason, triggers something in you, look these kind of things up. These initiation rites, they are so valuable. Just go through them. They will unlock something in you and you will finally, for the first fucking time in your life, potentially feel like a man. I say potentially for the men who have not felt that way. It will do that, but it will do it in a way that actually solves your longing instead of exacerbating it. All of that being said, I'm doing my part in this by having my own community. And I know it's a little bit ironic saying it after all the things that I just mentioned. But my focus is really on restoring the balance between men and women and trying to carve out a world for ourselves where we can both provide for each other's needs in the best possible way, instead of trying to create a world where our needs are met but women are completely ignored. And in my opinion, that world is not possible. It cannot exist. So why not do it in a more honorable way? An honorable way of finding a system that works for both men and women. In my life, I have plenty of women. You don't need to be a dick to have women in your life. You don't need to be Elon Musk levels of rich to have women in your life. Clearly, he doesn't even have women in his life. My focus is on restoring that balance that polarity, that relationship life, where we can experience true connection and love and care with a woman and provide them with that as well. And in the meanwhile, have an incredible, passionate sex life that comes with that. And if that interests you, you can join my community, Fire Unleashed. You can find the link in the description. In any case, thank you for watching. This video was something that I guess I needed to get off my chest. So thank you for sticking around. If you're interested in hearing more about what I have to say, or you're just interested in learning more about how female-male relationships actually work, then subscribe to the channel, engage in the comments. I'm still a new YouTuber, so all the contribution that you can give is still incredibly valuable, and I do deeply appreciate it. So, my name is Sanne. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.